They were originally playing with the idea of if you fell off the map at some of those places, whether it's a snow mountain or otherwise, then your rider dies and you lose that track. Welcome to New Game Plus. This is a retro gaming podcast where three guys spend 7 days playing one little game and then we talk about it. My name is Dustin.
My name is Kenny.
I'm Nolan.
And this is episode 398, inching ever so closer to our episode 400 anniversary episode.
I'm nervous. Question
of the week. What NES game has the best soundtrack?
Okay, I have an answer that is like a warning shot because I know that you're going to say it and that everybody else would say it too. So
interesting.
Mega Man 2, I think, is considered goated on the console.
And it is.
It is. In particular, like many Mega Man soundtracks on the NES, all of them solid, most of them great. That one's just insane. So that's like my soft answer. My real answer when I was thinking about it, I was like, what do I really think? And we recently, it was a couple months ago, Castlevania 1. I think that soundtrack is the best on the console, easily. The tunes, I can still hear them in my head, like they stick with you. They've been included in future games, just, redone. And there's something like NES tends to be loopy. You'll get really like short loops of songs. These have a beginning, a middle, an end, and you forget about the loop. And man, every stage has its own song. That soundtrack, Castlevania 1, so good.
Since we played it, I have sometimes when I'm at work, I have video game playlists playing in the background, and just recently I had like best NES one playing, and so it would be tons of different games, right? But I would regularly be working, and then I would hear a song and be like, that sounds familiar, and it's amazing, and I'd play back multiple times Castlevania. Multiple times. And you know what? Isn't the next couple Castlevanias on the console as well?
Yeah.
I listened to some of those. They're fine, but that original is even better in my opinion.
People really love the second one too, musically.
The second one as well.
It gets
or the
second
the
one two.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of the Castlevanias people think that it's
considered
got
up there.
Right. Good answer. Good answers. Mega Man 2, obviously soft pitch, but Castlevania, a good one. Kenny, what is one?
Yeah, thank you. Ask that question instead of what is the one, because then I'll have to hedge and give you 5 answers. One of the best. That's not Mega Man 2. I had the same problem Nolan did. DuckTales.
Ooh.
Pretty great.
We played that.
We did play it.
We have.
I think it's good. I think it's considered in this conversation because of one song, though. And
the main theme?
No, the Moon theme.
Yes.
That song is one of the best on the console, but I don't know if the entire OST can live up to some of the others.
I don't remember it. I'm sure it's great.
It's worth pointing out that some of the most popular songs on the NES we haven't played games from.
Like what?
On the podcast. Like Silver Surfer.
I've seen that one.
I don't know about that.
There's the one of the OG Batmans on NES that we haven't played.
Yes.
Supposedly has
a lot of love.
I'm going to submit one that we know. I doubt that we specifically remember it for the OST alone, but I went back and listened to it this past week, and it is phenomenal. This game is criminally underrated in almost every arena, including soundtrack. I'm talking about Bucky O'Hare.
I thought, okay.
You love that game so much.
Dude, we bring that game up often for a reason.
It might be our favorite NES game, like corporately.
It is slept on, and we've talked about it due to like graphics and the gameplay, right? Being able to switch between the characters and the platform and all of that stuff. But the OST,
the music's great too.
Go back and listen to that thing. It's got some really, 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 really good tracks.
I'm curious now. I need to. I'll check it out after the show.
You can let us know what your favorite NES game soundtracks are by hopping into our Discord. We've got a whole channel there. And you can let us know where we were wrong, where we were right, and what soundtrack is better. And I don't have a solid answer on this, truth be told. I'm still grappling with my answer to the question. There's just so many interesting tracks to choose from. Like in our retro game of the week, Jet Moto.
Overview.
Jet Moto is not only fun to say, but may or may not be fun to play. You got to listen to the rest of the episode to find out. It's a 1996 racer that was
Just call it an action
developed.
RPG.
No, I refuse. I'm so glad none of those words were relevant this week.
It's
you got to get
action-y.
away from it.
Hey,
There's stuff going on.
It's not. No, stop. It's too much. We're not going to beat that dead horse. We will beat some tracks, though. Developed by Single Track, published by Sony. This is a PlayStation title that also came out for the PC, I believe, interestingly enough. Dropped in October 96 here in North America. And the reason it's called Jet Moto is because it's literally just a hybrid of jet skis and motocross.
Have either of you ridden on a jet ski?
yes. I don't think that's why it's called Jet Moto.
Wait, why?
In GP lore, Dustin and I have ridden on a jet ski together.
What?
Yeah.
Just leave that there.
Nuts
that
to
lake
butts, which I
activity?
won't say again on the podcast,
Okay.
but that is what people say. I believe it's called Jet Moto because moto for motocross and jet for like
Right.
rocket jet.
I disagree.
Okay? Then take it up with
Jet
single track.
Jet
It's
ski, and
clearly a jet
motocross.
Wait, no.
ski.
Why do y'all think that? When y'all think that because
Look
one of
at
the
it.
early tracks is on water.
Yes.
But the majority
And
of
the cover art is jet ski
And
on
we
water.
have eyes and brains.
you don't, because if you did,
Wait,
you
why
would
do you think
read. You would read.
Why do you think jet plane?
Not jet plane, like rocket jet. I'm not making this up.
It's
It doesn't matter.
definitely-
Regardless,
It does matter.
moto.
It's floating motorcycles. They were gonna do actual motocross, and then they were like polygons, and this is hard. Let's just make them float.
Polygons.
And
Yes.
so, like that's the lore there. And so it's floating motorcycles. I think jet ski inspired as well. And Nolan is in my camp and right. And whether you think so or not, but I have brains and I have eyes. This game,
That can't be your defense,
mean,
because
it is.
only one of
It
those
is.
is true.
This game is a typical racer with a couple of twists beyond. It is.
Why are you shaking?
Racers
your
are all
freaking
typical
head?
racers. He's so
Because it's not a
contrarian
typical
today.
racer. You're there with hundreds of other bikes, some that are on your own team and squad.
That's how racing works. Sometimes
It's
All
a
the other
pretty
racing
typical racer.
games, which was under reference at the time, are a lot less racers. That's one of the key components here. I'll let you finish.
I'm
but
gonna
it
let you
is-
finish.
I think we're gonna have issues throughout this whole episode.
I think
because
so.
we are.
If it's not clear, this is a kid classic for me.
Well, two,
I'm
right?
Both.
I'm grabbing like the lowest hanging fruit, and you're like, "Quit eating my vegetables."
Right. And it's only gonna get worse.
problematic.
Can you just like it's a racing game? Just like
I know.
I don't know about that.
It's a racer that looks somewhat typical on some fronts, but has a few unique characteristics that we will talk about. And interestingly enough, you're playing as a variety of sponsored characters, so
Oh,
you
yeah.
get some end-game sort of advertising that still to this day apparently works, because all week I wanted to eat Butterfingers and Crunch Bars and drink Mountain Dew.
Hold on.
And
Why Crunch Bars? I'm sorry.
Oh, there were ads for them in some of
Were there?
the
Okay.
levels.
Yeah, Nestle.
Yeah, I don't think they weren't like a team sponsor.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I had some concern though going into this because this was not unlike Dust Not. This wasn't a childhood game of mine, but I was like looking it up and things about it. And Single Track also developed Twisted Metal. I hate those games, and so I was like, oh no, here we go.
Interesting. That is
Yeah.
very interesting. I mentioned it in passing just a moment ago. This was a game. I believe we rented as a kid.
Was it a game?
And we liked it so much that we ended up purchasing Jet
Nice.
Moto 2.
Yeah.
And then I brought just recently to our retro game store hall, that competition. I purchased a copy of Jet Moto 2. It didn't really get the raving, the community support behind
It's
it.
like crickets,
But it meant something to me, and so maybe some of the community this week in playing the first game with us got to see why Jet Moto 2 was a game that I found at the store and brought to that competition, but neither of you had any kind of experience with this game before this week?
Correct.
I don't think
Ooh,
so.
interesting.
It felt vaguely familiar, so I may have played it at some point. But it's good to know that you've got history because I will tread a little bit lightly. I don't want to accidentally,
You'll hover.
stake to the heart something that you love.
I had heard of it because it's everywhere. I think they mass produced these copies because if you go look on any like Goodwill site, like auction site or eBay, like Jet Moto is like the game that gets thrown in with PlayStation consoles just as a freebie. And so I guess I knew of it. I never played it though, but racers were such good renters. This would have been a perfect renter. Like I totally get that.
We're all in agreement there.
Agreed.
With racers are good rentals. But the last question before we leave here, are racers good games? Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because we've had a varied interactions with racers. I feel like out of all of us, Nolan is more in agreement with the racing genre, at least kart racers for sure.
Car racers for sure, but I'll say this. Since doing the podcast, I've grown to appreciate racing games, like normal racing games.
Right.
And I didn't grow up loving them.
Yeah.
So I used to kind of write them off kind of in the sports games category, which was also unfair of me, but yeah, they've grown on me.
You're running out and purchasing the latest Forza game now?
It's tempted me. Yes. The Forza Horizon game looks pretty cool.
We got a racer on our hands.
Gameplay.
We should probably start with the things that prove that you may be right, because this is a typical racer, but does have one or two unique elements, and I think those are the natural things to talk about first.
I agree. It is an atypical racer. Is that what you said?
I said this game is typically considered to be a racer.
He doesn't even. You got him on edge now. He doesn't even want to
I
speak.
know. I'm treading so carefully. I'm about to go into lawyer mode. Jet Moto's unique features: suicide tracks.
Just drop them all and then we can talk about them.
Just drop them all and then we can talk about them. Okay. The floating bikes, for whatever that's worth, and some of the mechanics around that. And then grapple cornering.
Yeah.
I think are the primary ones that feel unique enough to even like call out as unique. There's other things we can talk about as well, but they're all things that you might find in other games.
Can I add one more and then let's start with the bike, because I think that's kind of the most like
suggest one more.
I am going to suggest one more, and it's something that I mentioned in the overview, but I think I think having that amount of people, motocross is different from most racing games because that's part of what makes this game different than other racers, and the fact that you have so many people going that it's chaos. I mean, like that it is. I don't. Is it 20 people on a track at the same time?
So it's motocross meets jet skis meets Tour de France.
I'm still not with the jet ski things, but I'll go with you there.
You have to be with the
Let's talk about the hover bikes. Let's talk about this the thing that you are writing. That I do like that Kenny brought it up. It's super interesting. So Turtle, one of our community members, actually shared an old article that was written by one of the team members, the development team members, years ago on the like Wayback Time Machine, because it's not online anymore, so you had to find it. And they talked about how they were originally going to have wheels. They're going to do a science fiction kind of motocross, but they wanted to have wheels, but it would have added a total of 1,280 polygons that they had to render. And so they didn't want to do that, so they just cut tires. They
Brilliant.
removed tires, and so then they, more in line with the science fiction kind of theme that they were going for. And I think it works. It
circles are hard, so I get it.
Especially in that era.
Yeah, because you have to imagine all the I guess all the particles from like 20 that many racers, like what you were saying, all the particles from the dirt flying and stuff, and the water, I mean, there's water particles, but.
And so you're on this bike that feels like you'd be on a motorcycle, but you even can use your shoulder buttons to lean into turns. And I don't know if you noticed, but even like your rider will put out their leg to try to like balance themselves as they'll turn around, like a motorcycle rider does. And I felt. There's a lot of characters, by the way, that each have their own variety of weight on. Well, can't use the word weight. The variety of stats, and one of them I think is weight and
mass.
Mass, acceleration. You've got a few different things, and I felt the difference, particularly with mass, because if you get one of the skinny guys or girls, you're going to be floating for before you're hitting the ground, and if you've got one of the heavier ones, you'll be able to take turns a little bit easier. Again, I've got legacy experience, and it is wily at first, but I think it's something that you can get a hang of the more that you spend time on it.
You definitely feel the difference, and I've always judged games where there are differences by how like notable that is and how important it is, and I feel like this one was notable enough that everyone's going to have a preference. I didn't feel like there was one that was like an obvious answer. I felt like there really were strengths and weaknesses. Some of them are stronger characters than others, just like total amount of stats. But you're going to find that you have a preference and that one type of character works better or worse for you depending on how you play.
I also I noticed the difference. I feel like a game that does that well, but is kind of one of the like, it's a kart racer and it's more of a silly racer is Mario Kart. They do the different stat thing well. You can totally tell on your characters. This one doesn't feel like, this game to me feels like an in-between style of racer from a kart racer and a like very realistic sim racer, in that, it's hover bikes, and so that's science fiction or whatever, but the way that you are leaning to like leaning into corners and stuff adds the realism to it, and it does feel like pretty accurate, honestly, especially for that console. I was a bit surprised at some of the responsiveness of that.
The physics get a little wonky, and you can sometimes do some crazy things. Yeah, exactly. You're hovering and going really, really fast, and so who am I to actually say how that's supposed to work? But it definitely gives it a sort of more realistic like vibe, I think.
It is crazy, the physics, but I think it is all like self-contained. I don't know a better word for it right now, but like it follows the rules that
that's
it gives.
What I'm getting at.
They're silly and whatever, but like if you're picking the right characters, and I don't know if all 20 feel unique, but like there's 4 or 5 that will have lower mass, and you'll feel that in the floatiness. There's 4 or 5 that have a greater acceleration. You'll feel that in the speed that you shoot off. There's 4 or 5, and so you can like choose your archetype maybe and go that way. And so I was choosing at first one of the floatier ones, but I didn't like that. I kept hitting the signs the checkpoint signs, and I kept hitting all these things.
Dude, you if you have a floaty character, some of these stages, like you'll turn so sharp, the camera almost goes upside down. It's crazy, and then you'll fly off the track. It's awesome.
There's risk on the other side, though. You get too high a mass, and your like momentum can carry you and like force you. I was accidentally flipping my character completely over when I was just trying to lean sometimes. There's benefits and negatives to any of the extremes, I think, which is fun. You want to feel it.
The characters that you're choosing from are on 4 different branded teams, and one of them is Mountain Dew. Kenny mentioned that. The another
so
is
iconic.
Butterfinger, so iconic.
Which also fun.
And then you've got 2 less iconic ones. K2, which I believe is a winter sports company. I had to look it up. And then Axiom, which I did a little bit of research. I think is the comic book user interface team, the team that put together the comic book interface of this game is called Axiom Industries or something like that. And I think it was maybe just a shout out to them as they were designing these things.
The Mountain Dew thing,
possibly, I don't know,
is one of the early inclusions of them in gaming, I feel like, and they are like the gaming brand. Since Halo, do you remember that? Like,
well, I think sticky guys playing games,
2 liters,
drinking their Mountain Dew.
Oh yeah, they know the middle schooler audience that they're going for, and the like extreme sports, and there's a reason that Red Bull is
it works
or the energy drinks.
It's just so funny though, because I don't think you see that kind of branding in games nowadays. Maybe just because the cost is too high or whatever. But
yeah, I'm sure just getting your name out there like that,
hopping in and seeing straight up Butterfinger and
the
Mountain
logo.
Dew.
And Mountain Dew.
Oh, a logo and the coloring of the team, like
the bike,
the bike, everything
sick.
is themed to that.
I went
it's
Mountain
so
Dew
much fun.
for the jacket. The branding on the jacket was the sickest one.
Yeah.
And it's just,
I went Butterfinger at first because out of all of those products, that's the one I enjoy the most.
I love Butterfinger. Oh, I just saw Crunch. I have it playing. I just saw Crunch. Kenny's right. I saw an ad.
Yeah.
Kenny was hungry and thirsty
Nestle
this
was
week
all
playing
upon
this
that.
game. I think it's so fun. It's just a bygone era of like heavy promotion, and it can get gross and stuff like that, but I think it was done tactfully, fun, silly. It makes sense because sports teams are sponsored.
In racing, in racing you have sponsorships. It wasn't out of place, so I have no problem with it.
Yeah.
The other thing about this type of racer, I feel like it was kind of a popular theme, the lone racer, like Wave Race. You remember that game on N64?
On the 64?
Yeah, just a vibe, right? And I feel like this has a lot of the same style. And so it's super popular. And I'm sure that's why they chose to put those brands in there, because they knew kids were into this.
Hey.
So
you're
like
onto something, but so much so with the word vibe. Vibes are everything in 2023. I think those 2 games could you don't have to have a great game if the vibes are there. And those games
and it's fun.
This game and Wave Race, you mentioned Wave Race, but like has a vibe that it's going for. It's not pulling back. Like they're full steam ahead. Wrong thing, but in this. Kenny, you mentioned suicide courses.
Yeah.
I think that's a good branch to like the tracks just in general, suicide courses being one of those. But you've got a variety of tracks. You've got a few different biomes. You've got water tracks. You've got beach, and I think those might be one and the same. You've got your bayous. Which is so interesting.
I know I didn't expect.
Nolan
that.
grew up in the bayous. You've got your like snowy capped mountains, and then you've got one track I think that is an overcity, kind of like a sci-fi futuristic. It's your Rainbow Road type thing of this game.
It's like the bonus kind of stage feel.
Right.
Yeah.
I love the variety they went with here. It gave a lot of different like places you could go in theming, and they did a good job of integrating some of that like biome stuff into the tracks in a lot of cases. Annoyingly so in Blackwater, whatever it's called, the early bayou race that's impossible because it's so hard. But they did a great job of giving a variety of track styles that are going to play to different sorts of even types of racing, I think, and which characters you like and how well you're going to do on each of them, and incorporated the settings really well.
Can we give credit to where credit is due while we're talking about the Bayou stages? Kenny, you did remarkably well with your first play.
Yeah.
I didn't. I came in last.
But Kenny,
first of all,
think about the first play before that one.
Okay, yes, but also, Kenny, you started on a stage that is very narrow, that has tight twists and turns, and you didn't crash as much as I would have thought. Your second stage was the more open stage, and you came in what, third?
Yeah, I did great. Yeah. I
like Kenny. That's
That,
not
and
what
that's
I
a racer
expected.
too. That's not easy.
I know.
I'm not
Racers are
always
unfair.
bad at every single video game. Some of them, yes, but I have a reputation that's only slightly deserved.
He's like, it took 50 takes.
You're right. He edited it down for sure.
So the thing about the stages, some of the more open ones are kind of hard to navigate. And that's coming from a kart racer fan where it's just brain dead and you're not going to accidentally go off course, or you're going to take a wrong turn or end up going backwards the wrong direction. That's the classic. But some of these, and it's due, this is early for this, we'll get more into it later, but it's due to some of the polygon look of the stages, particularly on like the ice area, where we'll get to it. But I think the stages were good, but at times they felt just kind of a little too open, where I was making a lot of mistakes. But the thing about the 20 racer thing, or however many there are, you would think that's chaos, and it is early, but they kind of did a good job with like the rubber banding here, where I was kind of alone a lot of the time. And that's partially due to there's no items and people throwing things at me. But it did feel more like the Tour de France style, where you're not like bumping people. You're locked in, trying to go faster, and you're kind of alone. But I think that was also due to the narrow, or just the stages themselves.
Yeah, and each stage is going to play slightly differently depending on, one, how many laps you set. Kenny set 2 laps in the game, but I think the preset is 3. How large the stages are, and what type of stage. Here we go.
Yep.
The most chaotic are these. I think there's 2 or 3. There might be 1 per biome. I don't know. Suicide course, where it is much shorter than the rest, and the course, I love it, doubles back on itself. Think you already got 20 riders, and now you've got 10 going one way and 10 going the other, and you're like crossing each other. It is chaos, and for me, it is so much fun.
No other game that I know of.
I don't know
Yeah.
about that. Like,
I've never heard of that. It's awesome.
It's a
good idea.
Really fun gimmick, and again, in like a hyper realistic racer, you would never do this. But for this sort of like over the top sci-fi-ish vibey sort of racer where you're bumping each other and running into obstacles, and like you can pull it off, and it totally works.
And imagine split screen, or with friends doing the suicide tracks.
Yeah, I mean, that would be
a great idea.
So much fun. And the thing and I think you even added this as one of your things that makes this game unique. The thing that you really utilize on these stages, and use on other stages, but particularly these because it's just a loop, are these grapple beams. There's these sci-fi red-ish grapple beams that are placed in throughout various maps. Here, it's on the tight turns at the edge of the suicide course, where
while you're turning around to go the other direction.
If you use the circle button on your controller, it does this electromagnetic pulse beam that connects your
it's a tractor beam. It like attaches
to that beam, and helps you make these turns so much faster. And they have some kind of physics in it, because the closer you are to it, the tighter and quicker you'll turn, and the further you're away from it, the wider and slower you'll turn. But they're needed.
That's just how circles work, but it does.
That's physics.
Like,
yes,
work
physics
correctly. Yeah.
Very foreign mechanic in a racer.
Unique.
Don't love it. It's core here, so you got to learn to. But I mean, it's pretty cool. I don't know.
It never felt good to you?
It's not supposed to feel natural. Again, it's a sci-fi weird thing, but like, yeah, I don't love things that break up a racer, the momentum of a racer like that. And sometimes it was not breaking it up. It was just, you're just kind of shifting direction. But I don't know. Maybe I'm a little vanilla in how I prefer.
See,
to
I think they're
go
there
through
to
the
keep
tracks.
the momentum. Like if you once you figure it out,
Right.
they're there
Those
to preserve.
tight turns. Yeah, there's no way you're making them around them without going way slow or
Sure,
hooking
that's
and
why I
grappling.
said it in Phil Foreign, because they designed the stages that way. But
Yeah,
it's fine.
it definitely is key. If you want to be good at this game and be competitive, you're gonna have to learn to utilize them well, which just speaks to like the game design. If you're gonna put something in and make it dedicate one of your whole buttons to
Make it
it,
necessary,
you know,
yeah.
like you need to make it matter, and they matter here.
One thing that I do want to say that we mentioned it with how there are a lot of racers to choose from, and with a racing game, rosters are important to me. And this game, it would have been easy for them to just kind of do faceless racers, especially with the branding. But here, you still get to have like your main, like you get to pick your character. They have a bio and stuff, and I really loved that.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool.
You get backstory, and the like
Yeah.
gameplay and their stats kind of work
I
together.
like the lore.
You know, their
Yeah.
names,
funny.
like the guy that I was playing that was like slow and had big mass and was like throw his
Yeah.
weight around. His name was Stone. Like yeah, they were really thoughtful in fleshing some of that stuff out, and I'm with you, Nolan. I appreciated that.
I only
a
played
lot.
the girls.
Well, and they have a wide variety. They have tons of girls. You know, they have tons of guys as well. Kenny, you had maybe asked earlier or questioned if there's any like preferable racer. I think one guy is named Max, and he's got some of the better stats. He still, though, has very low mass, I think. So I didn't prefer him because although he was speedy, although all these other things are high, I can't with the float. And so like I didn't go with that. But I do like the wide variety of racers. It gives you a lot of variability. And then that's with the racers. I think then with the tracks, you've got so many different things that are doing different things, whether it's the long tracks or the suicide courses, the grapples. I'm just kind of going through again. Even
Stuff is coming at you
Yeah.
fast. Yeah, there's a lot going on.
well, even later game, some of the grapples are not only positioned to your left and right on the ground. There's at least some I know on the nightmare stage. There's some that are in the sky, so it helps launch you further to the next platform. Because throughout a lot of these stages, you've got like broken roads that you can. You're kind of like skiing on and off to like ramp, and I just
Oh yeah, there's places you could full on fall off the course.
Right.
It looks post-apocalyptic because it's like a road that's been destroyed.
yeah.
And it's tough, which is I think something we should talk about because
Yes.
this game, I think by reputation
point.
and just by all the reality of the things that we're talking about, all these mechanics and the speed and the things that you can fall off and the things that you can run into, some of which you can tell are going to be solid and some of which you can't really tell and you don't always know. You're gonna hit some stuff and you're gonna be frustrated. This is not an easy game.
It's a very hard racer.
Yeah,
Like,
and particularly with all of the other racers there, like there's just so many things against you.
there's a lot of things against you, all the things you listed, but for me personally, one of the bigger things that that prevented me from really performing was the controls and the kind of. I said it was responsive, but what I meant was it was realistic, the leaning and the shoulder buttons and stuff, but there was just kind of a delay I felt at all times with what I was pressing.
There's a sort of floatiness or looseness to it that I think you have to adjust to. I felt like things were responsive. Like when I hit things, it did it. But there is some physics there that may not feel natural for everyone.
It felt very PlayStation 1.
Well,
in a bad way.
It was.
I know.
Yeah, I agree. It does feel like PlayStation 1 all the way through. But I do think that there's a learning curve there. But I think once you figure, I think it all works within the system that it's providing, meaning it's going to work the same way every time. So if you learn that, and it's quirky, but if you learn that, whether it's the magnetic grapples, or it's the leaning, or it's the tight hairpin turns, or it's the letting off the accelerator to make that, or take this path, because sometimes there's a branching paths.
Yeah.
I think once you learn those things, it feels you start to get better and better at it. I throughout the week had to relearn some of these things, but it's kind of like riding a hover bike that you thank you, that it
just muscle memory.
Some of it's muscle memory to bring it back, but I understand that it's foreign at first, for sure. Foreign at first. I'll give that. And it is hard, and it was going to be even harder. In that same article that I referenced earlier, they were originally playing with the idea of if you fell off the map at some of those places, whether it's a snow mountain or otherwise, then your rider dies and you lose that track. They realized in playtesting that wasn't fun for players.
That's not fun, but honestly, I would respect that. Yeah.
Kind of hilarious.
Hey, when you jet moto, you're taking on the risk. It's like F1. They're risking it.
You can die in that.
IRL.
In that IRL game. Yeah. There's also boosts. The end.
Aged.
I want to start with soundtrack here, actually, because...
Okay. So we'll start high.
We'll start high because racing games, especially at this time, and especially on the PlayStation, racing soundtracks are very, very good. I'm thinking Ridge Racer 4. Woo!
Yeah, that's a standout.
Even by modern standards, fantastic. But pretty much all of my favorite racers, even the stupid ones like Snowboard Kids, they all had really good soundtracks. And so I want to start with this one because this one is one of the best things about the game to me. I think it's so catchy. Oh my goodness. It's like you need to go listen to it. If you haven't heard this game, go find it on YouTube and just listen to it. It's so good.
I love it. I think the kind of beach
go
rock
ahead and stop.
You need to worship it.
The attitude that I'm hearing in the tone of the voice disallows you from speaking towards this.
From speaking anymore. Okay, well, I'll let my implied tone speak for itself then.
This soundtrack is goated.
Goated.
It's on Spotify. You can listen to the Jet Moto soundtrack.
Oh,
it's only 8 tracks or so. I think they've got one per
track
course or something like it. It is phenomenal, and it all fits the biome that you're in.
Yes.
So if you're in the bayou, you've got some of
Which I love.
you've got some of that music, but it's still pumping, racing,
the
blood
momentum
flowing.
It makes you want to go fast.
A lot of the tracks have this bass slapping, and it's all not in-house, but they hired a group to do this,
Sure.
and they didn't go light on this. They put in the effort, and it shows, and it works, and I think it's so good.
Is 2 better?
It's
2
good.
soundtrack even better? Do you remember?
I remember it being good, so it might be.
It's probably just as. It's probably round 2.
I'm not gonna say best of all time. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna listen to it outside of the game. But my bar for that's also a lot higher, I think. But very well done. Fits the game perfectly, and I think we're all in agreement. Just a matter of how far we're leaning.
LNR.
I would imagine, though, on the other end of the spectrum, we could agree that the graphics are very dated. It's polygons.
They show their age.
It's polygons. I think they do well with that, but any of the text is so blurry, you can't even see what's going on.
About the graphics, this is one of the times, on the show, we play retro games, and most of the time it's fine, right? Emulating. This is one where I was like, man, if I could just see this on a CRT in its intended resolution, I just want to see, because I bet it looks way better. Just in that difference on a CRT, on an original console, I just want to see it because it would be so much more visually pleasing. Yes, the text, but even just the lines of everything, all the polygon lines and stuff. It's definitely PlayStation 1, and it's definitely old and feels old and contributes to some of the gameplay things I was talking about in controlling and visually representing it. But it's still cool. It's still got that look to it, I guess, that just appeals to me.
It shows its age. You're going to get some, some screen tearing and some clipping, whatever else. You're going to have these issues that are PlayStation 1. Yeah. For sure. There's some polygons going on, but I I agree with that roughness and taking it into account. Maybe it's just because they lean so heavy into the variety of tracks and doing the biomes, but the vibe of the look, I like. The execution's not great. It shows. It's dated. But with a refresh, like with a reskin that was just the same like places but just done better, like I'd totally buy it. So I don't know. I'm a little bit torn here. But yes, graphics, they got some rough corners.
Until you look at the character art and the whole different vibe they went with that. They hired a team to do this comic book style graphic representation for the characters and their biographies and all of this. And at the end of a race, the trophies being handed out, and that's in a comic book style. And it reminds me, it makes me think of like that 90s X-Men kind of like graphical
It's
vibe.
the exact style, yeah.
And I think it looks so good. All of those characters look so interesting. All of them.
Yeah.
They did a great job with characters as a whole, both the story and the variety of how they play and the visual look.
It's such an interesting choice.
Decision, right.
Because it doesn't necessarily fit. Like, you look the rest of the game and you wouldn't guess that they would go that style, but I like it still that it's...
With that much lore and that much focus on characters, is this an RPG?
Okay. Is it an ARPG?
But did they create a comic series out of it? I mean, they probably could have, because like the characters were so rich with personality, with characterization, the look of them. I mean, even the poses of them. They didn't have to do that. Racing games don't typically do that, and they
you don't need it.
Put
it's icing.
A lot of effort into that. Again, with racing, it's icing because you're just choosing a character for their speed. That's really all you need to know, just stats. You need to look at the stats. But here, it's look at the character, look at the name, look at their history. I mean, it's all these things.
Yeah.
One of the things that you don't get today, I just want to always make a mention of it to say how it's hard today, is being able to play with a friend in this multiplayer split-screen experience.
You're not missing much here, though. Because from my understanding, until you turn on some cheat codes to actually fully unlock the multiplayer experience, which are there, if you're playing multiplayer, you're playing head-to-head.
One-on-one.
It is you and the other person you're racing. That's it.
Yeah.
That sounds fun.
No computer characters at all.
Yeah, it is fun, but it is stripping away a lot of what this game is.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
I mean, dude, this is such a modern day multiplayer game because like F-Zero 99 or something, you could do a Jet Moto 99 and have all these people on there and playing online. That'd be
one
sick.
Small suicide course.
But yeah, one-on-one in these stages, I guess, would feel kind of empty. But
hey,
and again, there's an answer there, but the fact that you have to like go out of your way to get that, and that the default was just head-to-head is kind of just bad in my mind.
I even in motocross, I don't watch it, but I have seen it, and you've got teammates, and they're racing, I guess, quote-unquote, against each other, but also kind of working with each other, right? So, like, slipstream, or like, you know, and they help each other. If you could play multiplayer, but kind of on the same team against the rest of the people and work together, knock people off, or to guide people, that would be so cool.
That would be cool.
It'd be super cool.
You can't do it, though, today.
You can't do it, and also split screen looking, man,
split screen was always
chaos, especially on the suicide tracks. Like, I can't even picture that.
Right.
People everywhere. Yeah, it'd be a nightmare.
The series continued. This game was successful enough to give me and my family Jet Moto 2, which we had at our house. And it is just a next step. So same idea, next step, better graphics, better some of those
characters?
things. I would imagine at least some of the same characters, but also introducing some new ones. But also, hey, still branded. So you got Mountain Dew. I know.
Oh yeah, Mountain Dew's back.
I don't know who all's back. And then you've also got Jet Moto 3. So Jet Moto 2 in 1997, 3 in 1999, respectively. And no more after 3. That was the end of an era. But it was also the end of the 90s. It was the end of an era. But quite literally.
Yeah. It was a fine end of the era because you can't keep making this same game.
Right.
But people stop buying it. They would.
Yeah. And having 3, that's successful. You got a trilogy of games. You've done it.
Respectable.
If you want a disc, I know. Oh no, I didn't buy this one. I got to keep reminding myself. I bought two. If you want this one though for your PlayStation, it's only $7 used, loose,
Like I said, yeah.
and $30 new. So
Yeah.
Nolan's probably right. They made a lot of these.
Yeah.
They're out there.
Oh, and it also made greatest hits, and so it's got that green label too, and
Absolutely, yeah.
resold, reproduced. So
It feels like a launch title. I don't think it was, but it feels like
no,
a
I
launch
don't think
title.
it was either, but it would have been not bad to do it.
Yeah.
What other game has the It doesn't say Louisiana, but the bayous that you could go
I know
through?
that's
Like,
so
fun.
that was so interesting.
Final thoughts.
At the end of each and every one of our episodes, we determine whether or not the game gets our vote for New Game Plus status, which is our general thumbs up or thumbs down. It does require 2/3 of the vote to swing one way or the other. I will begin by saying simply this. I have legacy experience that is obviously coloring my opinions of the game this week. At the same time, I had fun revisiting this game this week. I think if you want to experience what was a fresh take on the genre at the time, if you want to experience something that is crazy but learnable when it comes to the handling and the stages, and you will get better, which feels good. If you want to experience insane tracks in a variety of biomes with a bopping soundtrack, one that you can listen to outside of the game, one that you should go listen to right now, then I would suggest try Jet Moto. I do think if my memory serves me correctly, Jet Moto 2 is the better game. We haven't played it yet on the podcast, and we're not talking about it now. So for now, I'm saying go and find a copy of Jet Moto 2 and play it. And I think that you'll enjoy it, even if you're not a racer, if that's not typically your genre, because this is a unique kind of glimpse into that era. And so I had a lot of fun returning to it this week. I think it's flawed, but I think it's a lot of fun. It's the chaotic fun that it's supposed to be. It gets my vote.
It was a fun Freudian slip. I don't think you meant to say it, but you did say Jet Moto 2 when you were saying go play it.
Serious? After
So for clarity, you're giving your
It's
vote
fine.
in GP plus
I was
2
even
Jet Moto.
hedging myself
I
to
know.
say to
I know. That's what your brain got caught
It's
on.
probably the same experience, at least to some
very
degree, but
similar. Yeah.
I'll jump in
Yeah.
and say first time playing this series, first time playing this game, and I love the unique take on the genre. I think maybe some people were trying to do something like this at the time instead of just making a car racer with stats, no character faces. It's just pick your car, which is cool for some people. You know, they really love that. And it's got the flair, right? Like it screams the 90s and I love the Mountain Dew branding. I think it all just is so appropriate and works. Unlike Dustin, though, when he said, I kept having fun this week with it, I struggled to tap into that factor. And I honestly, it's hard for me to put my finger on exactly why. It's not the chaos of it that doesn't bother me too much. The difficulty is there. And again, it was just that I wasn't able to really get down the grapple system the way that I liked, because it would usually mess up my car or my bike, my camera angle, all kinds of stuff. And then just the dated control scheme, which is not even dated, like that's most car racing controls. It didn't work for me in the end. And I don't give it New Game Plus. Maybe I'll give 2 New Game Plus one day, but I don't give Jet Moto 1 New Game Plus because it's interesting, but I think itself shoots itself. I don't know.
That's one yes.
Suicide track.
It's a suicide game.
One yes, one no. Kenny, the fate of this game and your life is in your hands.
Oh, no pressure. I literally had one of those weeks where I said I will reserve my decision until after we talk about it because I'm torn.
Uh-oh.
So there's a lot of good about this game. In one side, you've got this solid little racer. It's got some rough corners that show up in the graphics and the difficulty level. And it does lean a little bit I don't know, kind of basic in like it's a little bit repetitive or arcadish. It's sort of a game that I feel like you're gonna pick up and like play, but I don't know if you want to like throw more quarters into it. But then on the other side, you've got this diverse set of tracks that are fun and varied, and you've got these cool characters and their stories, and it's chaos and it's wild and it's a vibe. And unlike Nolan, I did have some fun, but every time I put it down, I wasn't ever really jonesing to come back and play more. So I've got to force myself to make a decision. I just do. I'm still literally to this moment torn. No New Game Plus. It's slightly too hard for the amount of fun you get. It's a vibe. It's got a lot of cool stuff going for it. All of that is worth pointing out. It's hard.
We're going to have on our Retro Master list Jet Moto listed as not New Game Plus certified.
I know.
We are.
Kenny, why'd you do that?
I had to be true to my heart and my
know, me
brain
too.
and my eyes. I didn't want to
Here's
break
the
his heart.
thing.
Like I almost changed my
Here's the
decision
thing.
just for Dustin.
I would have been better. I came into this thinking that I would be fighting a losing battle from the get-go, and that Nolan in particular would have had a negative opinion of this game fairly strongly, I expected, and Kenny would have ended on the negative. So y'all both ended there, but I had, it's always the worst. I would rather have just stayed there, because hope revived is a terrible thing to then shatter at the end, because as we were talking about it and hearing y'all speak positively and with issues about the game gave me hope, only to be crushed again by my best friends, which I guess that's life. I guess that's life.
It's not life.
Go listen to this. You can't listen to the soundtrack again, actually, you two.
I
but
can.
everyone
I
else,
have
no,
the
you
tab
can't.
open. I'm gonna.
I lost my privileges. I wasn't planning to.
Jet Moto is not New Game Plus certified. But what did you think?
Sorry.
30% on our YouTube poll said yes, it's worth playing today. 11% said no, go play something else. And 59% have never played it before, which is almost identical to last week's setup. Almost
That sounds
identical.
familiar.
We're like 1 or 2 numbers away, or which is silly.
Weird.
Yeah, very close. We had many from our community play along this week and write in. Some for the first time playing the game. Some have legacy experience like I did. And it was interesting because, like us, we had a few on different sides.
I'd bet this was a split decision kind of game.
Which is interesting. 'Cause, there's something, because either you've got really good games that everybody's like, yeah, duh. And then you've got really bad games that everybody's like, yeah, duh. If it's split, that means like there's something here for somebody.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Super Gamer Guy said, over a decade after it first released, my dad introduced me to a title that would shape my love for gaming for years to come. That game? Jet Moto. I remember spending hours playing casual games of head-to-head against my dad, often asking to practice on my own when he didn't have time to play. I'd often watch him try to beat certain levels in as short as a time as he could, including the infamously difficult yet immensely fun Nightmare track. Needless to say, I know Jet Moto's Falling Scream well to this day. Fast forward to 2023, and this one might have aged a little more than I remembered. Somewhat janky controls, constant collisions, and early 3D graphics could lead new players to quickly lose interest. But I think there's still a lot to love here. It may not be the most polished racer by today's standards, but Jet Moto will always be shining on in my heart. NGP to one of the games that got me into retro gaming as a hobby.
Dad multiplayer
love that.
is elite.
That takes it any game to
Yes,
like
that's
NGP
why I
status.
love GoldenEye.
Right.
Yeah, Dad multiplayer is the best.
Yeah. Responses like that are why I love talking about old games. Like that just warms my
Absolutely.
heart. Just those memories.
So I won't read the rest.
Okay.
Compacta said, when I was a kid, I used to rent Jet Moto 1 and 2 from the local game store. I have a lot of fond memories of this game, although it's funny how winning a race is not one of them. If we're honest, racing games have been kind of solved for a while now. You would need a good reason to pick this over Mario Kart or Gran Turismo in any era. Even in the same year as this, we had Wipeout XL, which I also rented a lot as a kid.
Right.
I played some Wipeout back in the day on PC, and
and
Good
does
stuff.
everything this game does, but better. You're telling me the Wipeout XL soundtrack is better?
Not.
I had fun knocking my dude around for a bit.
Hey, now.
And then it got annoying when I tried to actually complete a lap. I think this one can stay in the past as a memory. No NGP from me. Soundtrack was good though. That's what he
Saying
says.
the genre's been solved is kind of a strong statement, but to the modern like gamer, like picking Mario Kart or Gran Turismo or Forza, like you have to really love the genre to look further to find this, I think.
Yeah.
Because those are
Or
the two.
look
like,
outside of the box. This isn't trying to do what either of those two are doing.
and I don't think that's what they're saying.
Okay.
I just think that's what is accessible.
Orlando Workin' Punch said, my experience starts with a demo CD at my friend's house. Hours and hours,
Ooh.
day by day, we tossed the controller around in the quest to get good. One random Tuesday, my buddy brought the manual into school to show us he got the game, and cue no life for a couple of weeks until Twisted Metal stole the show. Since childhood, I have revisited this title many times, and while I enjoy it, it's not F-Zero or Mario Kart, and is not in my mind essential. While rough around the edges, and its sequel nailing the concept better, I have to say no NGP from me. Good game, but it can guiltlessly and shamelessly be skipped. I'm not sure why, but I really want a Butterfinger now.
I wonder what would have made it in that league with those games people keep mentioning. Like, what was it missing?
I don't love that people keep mentioning those games because I think
You
this
have
is not
to,
one of
though.
those games. It's definitely kart racers and racers. We can all agree are
Different.
different games,
Very, yes.
and so like I think this is more in line with F-Zero or Gran Turismo, something along the F-Zero.
Yeah.
I think that's a good comparison.
It's
I
fine.
almost think some of the racing combat games are almost more the vibe.
Twisted Metal, they made
Right.
that game.
No,
Same
yeah,
people.
not twisted, but like there was a racer on
He's saying
PlayStation where you were
you're-
like running next to each other and hitting each other with stuff that I don't know. It's almost got
NFL
more of that
Blitz.
vibe to me. They're all different, is what I'm. Yes, I agree with
Final
you
Fantasy
guys.
16.
Got you.
Unique.
Good.
And then Lyrica said, Jet Moto is a game I have fond memories of. Goodness, so many people, right? It was the first PS1 game I owned and a game I put many hours into over its lifetime. Going in, I expected to blast through the game, not expecting how badly my muscle memory for the game of the game has completely disappeared. The controls now feel awkward and janky, and the physics just feel off, especially when other racers hit you or when you grapple. The music selections are real bangers, though, and the racetracks themselves are all nicely designed. Overall, I would say Jet Moto is fun, but play the second game instead. While it has less racers, all the tracks from this game are unlockable, and overall a better
sick.
experience. This sounded like it was written by you, Nolan, based on your opinions
Yeah.
of this game.
Interesting.
That's really cool, bringing back all of the OG tracks in the second
I
one.
love that. Because
That's really cool.
that you don't get. I mean, Mario Kart started to do that later because people had favorites from like different ones. That's the best. Because then you're like, oh, no way, the mall is in this game.
Yeah, if you can play, and if they bring some of the riders back, there might
Oh,
not
heck
be
yeah.
a good reason to come
Your
back.
main-
But in the New Game Plus life, we're not there yet, although
Not there.
we have put this one to death. And we are putting it aside as we randomly select the next game that we're going to be playing from our retro master list. Randomizing now. We are remaining on the console for the second week in a row, PlayStation.
Okay.
We
Don't hate it.
are moving into the year 2000,
Yeah.
Okay, so a little more recent.
and we always love when this happens. We are playing a game that is based on a film series.
No, it could be great. Could be great. It could
The
be. Continue.
likelihood is fairly low when it comes to these kind of things.
PlayStation 2000, maybe.
Trying to think 2000.
It's gonna be a Disney
things
movie.
were out.
It's gonna be a Disney
Just let y'all guess for an
for
hour.
sure.
Okay. The game, I'll say this, the game is based off of a direct to video animated adventure musical film.
Okay. Not good.
Are we diving?
Yeah, we're diving.
Animated
No
music.
theatrical release. We're diving.
This is a 3D game on the PlayStation. It involves dinosaurs. It is called The Land Before Time: Return to the Great Valley.
All right. I think my wife will be really hype about this.
I don't know how to feel about this.
She's a Ducky fangirl?
Ducky?
Land Before Time was a big deal back in the day.
You don't know. You
Yeah,
don't
no
know.
one
that a
doesn't even
character?
know what he's talking about.
You don't know. Yes, it's the most adorable
Yeah.
character. The voice actor having a tragic backstory. Don't go look that up online right now. And Longneck and Sarah and Petrie.
Dish?
I think that's the little
maybe.
pterodactyl. Oh, I loved the movie. This game's gonna suck.
I've never seen the movie.
There's a good chance that's true. They made a bajillion of these movies. That first one was so popular, they just kept making
like-
them. I don't think I ever watched any of them but the first.
I think there's 16, bro. No, you had to watch past the
Yeah.
first. Did you ever see the little T-Rex? I think he's purple.
Chomper.
Maybe I watched the second one. Maybe the first like 3.
Don't say you didn't watch it. You
Might
know
have been.
Chomper.
I'm looking at the characters.
But he doesn't know Ducky.
Petrie,
didn't watch
Littlefoot,
it.
Chomper, Sarah, Ducky.
Yes. Find a copy of The Land Before Time, Return to the Great Valley on the PlayStation, and suffer along with us this week.
Yes, please. You can also join our community and leave feedback on the Chomper game. If you played it in our commentary channel in Discord, all you have to do is go to discord.gg/newgameplus. It will pull you into the Discord, and now you're part of our family, and you can't leave. You have to stay here forever.
Wow, that got dark.
Well,
You'll want to stay though, because there's so many great members of our community, including those who go above and beyond and support what we do on patreon.com. We want to say thank you to those of you who are in that group, including our very large and growing list of producers, such as Adam, Alex, Marley, and Antonin, Ben, Big Dude, Brunt, Ellis, Fishy, Francesca, Gimbin, Hallex, Harold, J. Robert, Jake, Jared, Joey, Jordan, Justin, Kenny's Beard, Clint, Nick, Nat, Corey, Levi, Maxima, Megatroid, Nolan's Old Mustache, Not Enough Dog, Pedro, Sajan, Shane, Shauna, Psycho Mantis, Thomas Turtle, Unbedavable, and Zion. Thanks for your support. Also, it
passes out.
takes so much out of me. Yeah, I'm just like, I'm done. Also, thanks to Smashing Bricks Retro Gaming Podcast for upping your contribution yet again. And Orlando
Bloom?
Workin' Punch, who not only wrote in commentary this week, but also is joining us as a producer for
Whoa,
the first
welcome.
time. So, double shout
check out
out.
the producer channel. It's secret.
You got some cool perks there. And we want to say thanks to our director level supporters, of course, Bro Jim, Garlisle. Wow, apologies. Super Hypered, Miss Muso, who just recently had her director episode, and Siegfried as well.
Siegfried.
Thanks so much for y'all's support.
You can follow us on our social media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, and YouTube. The links are in the show notes. Listen directly on any podcast provider of your choice. Make sure you subscribe so that you are the first to get new NGP episodes. And while you're at it, please leave a kind rating and review. Our video episode was edited by our friend Dylan. Our audio episode was edited and produced by our friend Dan Willett. Join us next week as we play The Land Before Time, Return to the Great Valley. Until then, I'm still Rocket Jet, not Jet Ski.
I'm still hoping this game isn't as bad as it might be.
Imagine if the Land Before Time game gets NGP and Jet Moto didn't.
I will rage. And this has been New Game Plus.